That's all right. On. It's all right. You're right. Here I was hoping to get away from being on camera tonight. Guess not. That's too bad.
Item 2, open forum.
You gotta talk into it.
How about now? We had a top rating. Okay. Item 2, open forum. On agenda items. Individuals who can be heard by the council will be recognized by the council chair. The individual must identify themselves to the council by the first and last name and or business owner. After identifying himself, the speaker may make brief comments regarding items on the agenda that do not have a public hearing. The council chair may set a time limit on the length of the public comment and or time limit for individual speakers. Now, we do have a public hearing on the budget. So if you have something for open forum, other than the budget, this is the time to speak it. I also want to say that there's going to be no tolerance tonight for personal attacks. This is the warning. Anybody does it, I will have you removed. So let's keep it civil. Let's keep it to what we hear about. Okay, open forum. Anybody on this side?
Kathy. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was just telling Kathy this was the time.
She behind
me. Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sheila. I live in Maryland. Just a few questions. I want to say I know you guys have walked into. What you're taking over from before, I know it's not an easy thing. On the other hand, you weren't even here 8 months. Something that you're longer. I think it's really hard for you to make a definite decision, money-wise, for any department. My personal feeling is I don't think you really had enough time to actually go through of the mess that was made before you. And everybody pretty much knows that a lot of things, it was next. So I think you really need to stop and think about what you're doing and think of perhaps the people that it may affect. So 8 months is not a whole lot of time. So really research and make a decision on other people's lives. And my other question is, when someone comes up here and they ask a question, nobody ever gets an answer. If I ask you a specific question, none of you answer. You never give anybody a specific answer. You don't explain what you're doing, why you're doing it. I think you're just, okay, we're going to do this, this is what we want to do, and you'll have to put up, which I don't really think it's fair. I think we need to do some answering. I've been at the question and answering series. Not very many questions actually got answered, and why you come for this decision, why you felt that this was the right thing to do. I think as citizens of this town, I think we should have more of a say that goes on in our community that we get access for. And it's like, I've sat here and watched some of you when other people were talking. I've noticed that some on the phone, some are really not being given attention to what other people are saying. You seem to be like bored. Anyone really listening to what people are saying. And are you just seeing perhaps numbers that you just don't like those numbers? And that you want to change those numbers? I grant you a lot of people are not particularly happy with the draft going on. And it's still be about that something that they're always. But that being said, it may have to go gradually and not 10%, 15%, 20% all at one time. That's the way it is. So I really would like to see it takes time. Think about it. Look at your numbers. And not just say, oh, that's too much for them to pay. But as I have said before in one of the question and answering, how many of you, other than I know Mr. Street had, gone to the fire department, talked with any of the firemen to see what goes on in the run of the day? Now today I've heard it going all day long between ambulances, fire trucks, and I believe like catering. So I'll go to the police department, ask to do a ride along, because I know if you talk to the chief, see what goes on in the run of the day in their office, so that you really understand where they're coming from and what they do in the run of the day. And I think it would really surprise a lot of people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room?
Hi there. I just have a quick announcement. So I am chair of the event committee. I work directly under Sean, and he's asking me to follow announcements. So Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. at the Town Council Chamber, there will be a volunteer meeting. Anybody who's volunteering, helping us organize the Fest. And also, especially for the people from the back, Sunday, the 12th, Tap House, 5 p.m. All town employees and their families are invited. They're going to save the venue, and they invite the town employees and their families to come to partake and possibly have some food, maybe some drinks. And again, this is the town of setting the front people, the employees of the town of Lincoln and their families, just for us to get together and enjoy a couple of something. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? This side? George? Yep.
I just wanted to update comments with the actual budget later on, but I want to bring everyone's attention to the charter, section 602. It expressly says that an itemized statement of appropriation recommended for the current expenses and for the permanent improvements with cooperative statements and parallel columns and estimated expenses for the current year and actual expenses for the next preceding fiscal year. An increase or decrease in any item shall be indicated. I don't see that the current budget has any of that. So I'm hoping during the explanation of the budget, there'll be a line by line on every section. So, in my opinion, if you don't have that, it's a violation of the charter. And so I don't think we move forward, but right now.
Thank you. Bobby?
Bobby Storman, I have a question I'd like to address to all of you. I don't know if you can answer me or not. I mean, just not questions, but I want you to think about individually, what are you most proud of in the 9 months that you've been seeing? Does anybody want to listen? Okay, I want, oh, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. My second time on the council, I'm proud of the fact that we may have a chance to slow down this egregious town government that we have and right side of it. It's not going to be easy, but we need to do that. And what that may be in a couple weeks, I think all the players need to come to the table, good or bad, but
Can I interrupt? I actually have up until right now.
what am I proud of right now?
What have you done up to right now? For the most part?
Voting the budget down.
Thank you. Anybody else? And that's fine if you don't want to. You can go on to ask the next question. Okay, my next question is, during the month of June, we came to 4 meetings. June 1st, my birthday, gave up my time. Came back on June 15th. Came back on June 22nd, for the budget, review for me. And so I'm something completely different than what we were presented on June 1st and June 15th. So my question is, did you violate the hearing to the voters and then around minutes switched it out for a budget that was the article? Did that violate the town charter? It seems like we're back here again today doing it all over. Did anybody have?
It was probably an oversight on. Let me answer the question before you interrupt. I didn't interrupt you. Usually when the budget is amended, and it happens usually that it gets small adjustments here and there. These were severe cuts. I've never experienced that before. So This is what tonight is for, is a public hearing on those cuts that Councilor Highland has proposed.
I feel like you guys voted on a budget that was not presented to the voters. And you're saying, we're really working on cuts. Four council members knew exactly what the vote was on June 22nd. So we never saw that budget. When did you guys see the budget? Did you go with, oh, selling great costs? That's what it appears like from this side of voting, from the voters out there, because we were not presented to any of it. It was survived. And now we're again voting on a budget that seems to come from David Arlen, not the town manager. Mr. Edwards, we because the budget for the charter needs to come from the town manager. This is all coming from Arlen. Are you violating the charter again?
No, you know.
Are you? Great.
My name is Susan Lappin, I'm a resident of taxpayer in the town. I am a firefighter's wife and I am a firefighter. I don't think people realize firefighters, police officers, EMTs have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, and their jobs are not 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. And maybe, and it might probably throw me out, if, as a taxpayer, I don't think everybody is working for the citizens of the town of Lincoln. Maybe we should do away with the town council, have a select board. When the manager presents the budget to us at a town meeting, we as citizens vote on the budget. It's not 7 people, it's not 4 people, it's everybody as taxpayers pay for the budget. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Yep, in the back.
My name is Candace Davis. I am a resident of Lincoln, Maine. I pay my taxes here. I want to thank you veterans for your service. You know, I appreciate all of you as well. And I want to thank all of these guys in the back for their service. As a taxpayer, I've lived here 1 year and 1 month. I bought my home and I have noticed a lot of things that these officers do. And if we wish to cut them out, then our emergency services would really suffer in this area. Why would we take other communities to come into an area when we're already staffed to have our community that we have? It doesn't make any sense. Why not just keep what we have and pay them to stay on? Another thing is cutting out recs. I grew up in foster care and I turned out to be a success story. And that is because I had the community with recreation activities in the summertime for me to do. I think with other kids. I hung out with other kids. It kept me off the streets from getting into drugs or whatever. I could have gone in a whole different way. But today I'm not in that direction. I want to know how the city or the town has come to the conclusion that my home, a 4-bedroom house on the corner of Enfield and Hale, has become 148% higher than any home in my area and increased my taxes. I want to know how come we're paying more for our utilities than what we were paying a year ago. Where is the money going? If you're going to raise our taxes, then it would make sense to keep our staff on that we have behind us that fight for us every day. That's the police officers and the firemen. I sit in my living room every night, and the other night I sat there with my dogs watching TV, and at least 5 times in 2 hours, the fire department and paramedics and police were going by. So you can't tell me they're not needed. They're very needed in this area. And if we cut them, that would be a shame, and I would be very ashamed to even admit that I know some of the people in this room. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side?
Erica Millett. I'm a Lincoln taxpayer.
I wanted to share some thoughts tonight. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of over 550 Lincoln residents who signed the petition to revise the budget adopted on June 22nd and bring this matter to referendum. Registered voters from all walks of life stepped forward to sign this petition. Many felt so strongly about these cuts that they overcame severe physical limitations just to sign. Some individuals could not leave their vehicles and sign through car windows. Others struggled to walk up the hill and required physical assistance to do so. Several arrived in wheelchair vans. Some expressed fear, some expressed anger, and most residents expressed deep gratitude for all of our first responders. The message from young to retired was unanimous. Lincoln does not support this budget being reviewed tonight, nor do we support the nearly identical budget adopted by a narrow 4-3 vote on June 22nd. I would not be doing my due diligence as a citizen if I did not stand here tonight and ensure that their voices were heard. A significant number of residents explicitly expressed voters' remorse. They acknowledged that they voted for some of you because they wanted change, but they made it clear that this was not the change that they wanted. And if they could change their votes from last November, they would. These deep cuts will hurt the very people that you are trying to help. My research shows that over the last 2 years, 80 to 85% of all EMS runs performed by Lincoln EMS were billed to Medicare and Medicaid. This means that 831 of those runs out of the total 1,011 EMS runs were for neighbors likely living on fixed incomes, low incomes, or living with disabilities. Residents also expressed being uneasy of the deep cuts to the police department. While there are ongoing debates about right-sized police force, the data shows our town needs are growing, not shrinking. In 2023, the police department responded to 3,306 incidents, 733 traffic stops. By 2025, those numbers jumped to 3,772 incidents and 1,072 traffic stops. Anyone who lives in town, we're aware of how frequently we hear the sirens throughout the day. The data proves that what we already know. Our public safety departments are incredibly busy keeping us safe. Many also expressed deep concerns about the rec department. And I can tell you, as a parent who has volunteered and fundraised for the rec football program, I can tell you without hesitation that the rec department is already underfunded. Cutting any significant amount from this budget will be catastrophic. On any given Sunday in the fall, if you head up to a rec football game, the bleachers are almost as full as a Friday night football game. That means hundreds of people from away are eating in our restaurants, fueling up their vehicles, and shopping in our stores, and that helps to drive the local economy. In addition to these cuts, volunteers are incredibly hard to come by. The idea that volunteerism will step in to save Lube Fest or keep the recreation programs afloat is simply not based in reality. All programs that require volunteers struggle on a week-to-week basis to find enough people to make programs run. Often it is the same few people who show up week after week because if they did not, no one would. While Loon Fest does cost the town a significant amount of money, the money being injected into the local economy cannot replace and should not be gambled with. Over the last 2 weeks, I have spoken to close to 1,200 taxpayers. To put that number into perspective, 1,687 total ballots were cast in the entire town in November's election. The consensus is overwhelming. The people do not support this budget. The adjusted changes published late last week have not alleviated those fears. In fact, it sparked even more debate. Many feel that these new proposed changes are retaliatory. If this council truly believes it is executing the will of the people, then you should have allowed this budget to go to referendum. Let the voters decide, as is their right under the town charter and the Maine state law. By making a motion to suspend on the June 22nd vote, It signals a question that you may question your own decision. And I truly hope our town attorney was correct when he said suspending that vote was democracy playing out in real time, and not just a stall tactic to resurrect a budget that should be dead. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Nealand. I'm a local business owner, registered nurse, real estate agent, taxpayer, mother of a first responder, and future family member of a police officer serving this town. Our community. The community is a unified body of people. Lincoln needs that spirit now. The town council represents the whole town, and we need a practical path forward that protects taxpayers without weakening essential services. We face three connected challenges: rising property taxes, concerns about fair and consistent assessing, and an aging population. Cutting deeply without a long-term plan may reduce services, discourage families and businesses, and make the tax base smaller over time. In improving the budget, I think that we should review each department line by line, and I understand that the budget committee has done this, identifying efficiencies and deficiencies. Before cutting staff, we should pursue grants aggressively, share services where it makes sense, and use a multi-year capital plan so large equipment needs, I'm reading it off, so large equipment can be repaired or brought in before emergencies. Public safety should be measured by community need, call volume, seasonal population, increases in the population. I know we're a town of 4,800, but we increase exponentially over the summertime. We also have taxpayers that have, seasonal hunting camps and whatnot. We have to take into account and accommodate that. It's important to recognize that the budget committee already reviewed this budget line by line and made recommendations after doing the detailed work. If the town council chooses not to follow those recommendations, then the residents of this town deserve a clear public explanation of why. Ignoring the committee's work without transparent reasoning undermines public trust and makes taxpayers question whether the process is being respected. We should market Lincoln as a place to work, live, visit, and invest. Lakes, outdoor recreation, the recreation department, local businesses, schools, healthcare, public safety, broadband, the technology park, and the former mill site development are all important projects that this town can use to facilitate and promote. Attracting younger families to our aging population requires housing, jobs, childcare, safe neighborhoods, recreation opportunities, and a positive message from town leadership. I feel like discrepancies in the assessing issue, the town should explain the reevaluation process in plain language, publish timelines, and hold public information sessions, make appeal steps easy to understand, and ensure compatible properties are assessed consistently. And I feel like that would be an increment adjustment to some of the tax revenue. Fair assessing builds trust. Confusion and silence create anger, as we've all noted. The town should police, fire, EMS, and recreation are not extras. Public safety protects residents, seasonal property owners, visitors, patients, hospital staff, businesses, and family. Recreation supports children, seniors, family, health, community pride, and the quality of life that helps attract and keep people in Lincoln. I understand that taxpayers and the town council are under pressure, but responsible budgeting should protect poor services, grow the tax base, and correct unfairness, not divide neighbors or make Lincoln less attractive to the people that we need to bring here. My request is simple: slow down, work together, communicate clearly, and choose solutions that make Lincoln stronger, not just cheaper.
Bette Mayo, Lincoln. First of all, I need to find out from the council if you have found out from your attorney whether the vote on June 22nd was legal. There was discussion that it might not be because of how the amendments were made and voted on, and then the original vote was never voted on. So did you get that answer from the attorney? And if so, can't you share that with us as the transparent council should?
Yes, it was legal.
The meeting and how it was voted on was legal.
Yes,
That's what the attorney said.
yes.
Okay. And my next question relates to the numbers that are included on the agenda tonight. Some of them don't match what was actually voted on June 22nd. Are you going to explain that information to us?
That is in Councilor Ireland's item number 3.
Okay. Because there are missing budgets, like the TIP budget is not on the agenda and the revenue budget is not on the agenda. So I'm just wondering, are we actually voting on the full budget or just part of it?
We're not voting on any budget tonight.
But are we having a public hearing on the entire budget?
We're having a public hearing on what Councilor Ireland has proposed.
In that regard, there was a blank piece of paper with department names on the side. Is that where we're going to get our detailed information as to what is proposed to be cut or not from Mr. Ireland's budget?
That is, Councilor Ireland will have to answer that when he gives his presentation.
Okay, so as each one of these items come up, we will be able to speak to these items. And again, with the missing amounts of money on the budget, I'm not sure if this is a true public hearing on the entire town budget. Thank you.
Frank DeCastro, Lincoln, Maine. First, I want to thank you, military gentlemen, for your service. With that, I want to say I'm very disappointed in our council. I am not only a taxpayer, I'm a business owner in this town. I work public safety in this town. And from the day I started, every year, cuts. Cut the department, cut the fire department, cut the police department. Now we're on the rec department. We got to stop. What are you doing to these people? Playing with their lives every day, where they're going to have a job. And how are we going to get good people here if we keep saying, oh, we're going to cut the positions? That other towns are going to steal these guys and girls. We need to stop. Look at, you want to go get some money, go start finding the places that are not being taxed and you don't even know the houses that are built out here. I'll bet you there's over 100 houses that were not even on the books in this town, on lakes. And we're looking to cut these folk. In the rec department, taking care of our kids. We need to get our together. I'm disappointed. I voted on some of you guys. And I don't get it. And then here, maybe some of this stuff is illegal. Come on, man. And how's one person on a council making decisions for the rest of you? I don't get it. We vote a body. And the last thing I want to say, We elected this one guy who's making these decisions, and I followed him up the road, and he throws this piece of paper out on the road by Why Not Stop. And we vote somebody like that to litter in our town. It's a little ridiculous. And I'm very disappointed.
No.
I'm gonna correct that. I threw out a lifesaver that fell onto my floor. There's no way. I want to put in the car and see the proof. Come on. Pick it up.
Williams from the taxpayer Lincoln. I believe the lawyer. I'm Stacy Williams. I live in Lincoln. I'm a taxpayer. I believe the lawyer reminded people not to do crosstalk and answer back to people's statements. From the last meeting.
Good evening. My name is MJ. I'm a resident of Lincoln. I spoke here last week like many others, but I'm here to speak again because funding our essential services is something we're being repetitive about. Last time I very clearly stated that this tremendous budget cut will be detrimental to our town. I outlined the terrific work of our police department as well as our fire and emergency services. In addition, I offered up some constructive criticism about ways we may address these issues put before us in regard to our town's budget. Lastly, I shared information on why some of the current leadership on this council have absolutely no business being elected officials, but I digress. Today, I would like to share a bit about myself in hopes that you could gain some perspective about what these budget cuts are going to do to the people standing before you. Before living here, I previously resided in Augusta. I had access to tons of job opportunities, which afforded me a position in healthcare with a mostly livable wage. I had benefits and plenty of overtime. I had multiple options for healthcare. They have a rapid response from emergency service and a plethora of other resources that were at my disposal. I moved to Lincoln to start a life with my husband. Truly, there is no place I would rather be. Recently, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This is a disease where my immune system attacks my brain. It forms lesions on my brain and for some people on their spine as well. Before this happened, I had 20/20 vision. Now my vision is bad and I cannot even drive. I have severe nerve pain, dizzy spells, chronic fatigue, and many other symptoms. Access to healthcare in the state of Maine, and specifically in northern Maine, is few and far between. I had to go to our local ER a few weeks ago because I woke up and all of the vision in my right eye was gone. I'm on a wait list for primary care, and the soonest they might be able to get me in is 2027. Leaving MS untreated can lead to lifelong disabilities and in some cases death if enough lesions form in detrimental spots of the brain or spine. I called every neurologist in the state of Maine, and the soonest they can see me is in September. Some wait lists are up to 2 years. Why am I saying this? What does this even have to do with our town's budget? I have a 6-month-old, and if God forbid there is an accident with either of us or a fire, by the time help can get to us, will that be enough? I cannot drive currently. I can't bring him or myself to get help. I'm depending on the emergency services in this town paid for by my tax dollars to protect my family and I. This may sound outlandish to you all, but it has been made abundantly clear by the emergency service staff members and even nurses who have spoken at these meetings that their response times will suffer and in turn their patients will suffer. The majority of this town council, from my understanding, is Republican. Last time I checked, the Republican Party is one that advocates for pro-life. There is nothing pro-life about a child without a mother or a mother who could lose their child or the death of an elderly community member because we couldn't get them help in time. It is insane to me that after years of the radical left saying we need to defund the police, that Republicans are the ones who are actually doing it. How completely absurd. I want to paint you a picture. The median age in this town is 61 years old. There are no young folks flocking to this town. My husband and I seem to be an anomaly. If we want to talk about budgets and boosting our economy, that comes with new businesses and new residents that plan on spending their life in this town.
This past year, Lincoln saw more deaths than births. The only reason we have maintained our population size is from folks who moved here from other areas. If you push these budget cuts, why on earth would anyone my age want to come here and settle down? A town with no access to healthcare, no jobs that pay a living wage, no access to affordable higher education, with an understaffed and overworked fire department that might not respond in time, again, not for their incompetence, but for yours. An overworked emergency department that is filled with travel nurses because we can't staff this hospital with people who live here. With a police department who may no longer be able to provide pertinent trainings that keep our community safe, and I could go on and on. I certainly won't be encouraging the people I know to move here if that's going to be the case. There are so many ways to lower our property taxes that don't involve defunding the police, fire department, and EMS. The people of this town elected you and trusted you would do what's best for us. You went on and on about lowering taxes and working on affordability. How much exactly are we saving in property taxes? Do you have the numbers? Because I'm so sure that whatever it is not worth losing funding to emergency services. I'm certainly not running into a burning building, and neither are any of you. I think the least we can do for the brave people who do is pay them and staff them adequately. You blindsided this town. You want these departments to explain every penny to you? You want a breakdown? You set forth a budget. Why aren't you giving us a breakdown? I don't want to hear just X amount is allocated to the police department. Why don't you tell us how these funds are sufficient enough to even cover the bare minimum expenses? Oh, and on a separate note from last week, just so y'all are aware, it is not defamation of character when I present a fact provided to the public from the state of Maine. If you are a pedophile like David Ireland, I'm going to use my constitutional right to let everyone in this town know. Pedophiles do not deserve to hold office. Thank you.
Good evening, Marguerite Tilton, taxpayer. Is it on? Better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put it right in my mouth, but I think part of the frustration from what comes of the past several weeks is the fact that we tout open forum and we say we're having a chance to hear what people are saying, but are we listening? I think that's where the frustration comes in. A lot of people do not feel they are being listened to. And as a taxpayer, I am hoping that my statements are being taken into account. I don't think I've previously stated when I stood up here that I voted for some of you that are sitting here on the council tonight. I did. And as with Frank, I regret it. Because part of your platform and the statements that you've made on your own social media sites and or to the Lincoln News stated that you wanted to preserve the very things you're talking about cutting. I want the preservation of EMS, police, fire departments, as well as funding to and for our rec department and community events. I want those departments left alone. I'm not the only one. And several of us have stood up here being heard. I'm not really sure we're being listened to. I will not and do not support moving money from one department to another. That's robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it never works. And you're also pitting departments against each other. At what point does that even seem like a good idea? To be clear, there are several other budget proposals and recommendations that have been made from several people. And some of them offer a much more minimal cut and or a budget that stays the same, which won't cut into these other departments. A big part of my concern is you are trying to make cuts without even having fixed part of the problem, which is to collect the taxes that are due, which has been spoken about time and time again, so that we can actually better manage our taxes and our budget. So maybe take a step back, kind of take a mulligan on this year, get that stuff fixed, and then prepare better for fiscal year 28. Again, I don't support Councillor Ireland's budget. I don't want cuts to the aforementioned departments that I have stated.
We need to leave the heartbeat of our town alone. And instead, we must build from what we have and what we can have and what we plan to have. Lastly, I don't want sympathy. I want empathy. I want understanding about what myself and the rest of the taxpayers who come here night after night, week after week, to come talk to you about. I want things fixed before cuts are made. Nobody ever really wants to pay more for groceries. Nobody ever really wants to pay more for utility bills. The same is true for taxes. We also know that taxes are a way of life. We have to pay them. And that due to inflation and other things in our budget, we have to pay more here and there. I fully support if you're doing the background work and getting everything working 100% the way that it needs to be, then looking at some of those cuts for you. But I'm not willing to support you with that this year. And again, week after week, time after time, myself and other people are standing here. We're being heard. We also need to be listened to. Please keep the pulse of our town going and growing. It is what is going to benefit us and all the townspeople of every age category today and in the future. Thank you.
Hello, Kelly Ryder, Lincoln. I just have a real quick question, I promise. How are we doing on finding a qualified and strong leader to be our town manager? How is that search going? There's a part B. Part B is, we really need a treasurer. We lost a really good one. So I don't know how we'll ever replace her, but we need a really good treasurer. So people out in Zoom land, if you know anybody. Also, if you guys cut the assessing budget, and the crux of the problem right now is people being either overtaxed, undertaxed, or not at all taxed. We really need a full-time, qualified, smart, hardworking tax assessor to dig us out of this hole. Now, we can argue about everybody's budget until everybody's blue in the face and hates each other or whatever, but we need those three critical positions in our town desperately. So I was just checking in to see how's that going. Are we working on it? Please say you are.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We are.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not gonna carry on here tonight about different things, but I got a question. I was in business in town for 51 years. And when I had we had a budget every year that we had to do. We sat down with every department head and went through the budget for the year. Is the town council sitting down with the fire chief, the police chief, the rec director, and all them to come up with this bottom line deal that you got? Or is it you guys the ones that are adding up the stuff?
The process generally is that the town manager meets with each department head during the budget process. This year that kind of followed up with things that went on. I believe Wade, hold on. I believe Wade had met with department heads and is still meeting with department heads now to come up with a solution.
So in all essence, you come up with the budget. Everybody's talked with their heads. So how come David comes up with the idea of what's going to be on the budget?
That's going to be David to explain on the next slide.
I'll listen. Thank you.
My name's Courtney Thurlow. I am a resident taxpayer and employee of the town. I already spoke, so you guys know how I feel, but I also agree with, Frank and Marguerite. I really regret who I put in front of me. I'm just gonna use a few examples. Cutting the events from the TIP budget or the coordinator is going to basically ruin our town because homecoming brings in so much revenue for so many businesses. Also with that, cutting from the TIF budget to fund the fire department, which shouldn't be a thing. Would also cut lifeguards because that pays for our certification and the beach is an attraction. For the town. So some of my examples are this, last week alone, within 3 days, we had 4 rescues. If we aren't there, what's going to happen? Because I had 13-year-old girl turn and yell for help and start drowning. And my staff was quick to jump in and rescue her and get her to safety. She did not have a parent there. So I'm asking you, what would have happened? And I would like someone to answer. And no one will. That child would have died. And we would have had a tragedy in this town. So getting rid of us is going to make tragedies happen. I can't count the rescues that I've had. I also had to rescue a 17-year-old boy back in 2022. I was 6.5 months pregnant with my son. I went from the shore and was to that kid in 30 seconds. He had to be taken to the hospital by ambulance and was there overnight. Had we not been there, especially during homecoming, we would have lost another child in this town. Losing us is going to cause so many fatalities to happen down at that beach. And that's what you're gonna do if you use the TIP budget to fund the fire department, which we should just have both. We shouldn't change a thing. We need to keep it how it is and get everything in line before we make these drastic cuts. My staff is trained, they're amazing. And if you cut this, you're cutting them. And the wonderful beach that we put so much money into is now going to have people that are basically janitors. So you can choose to have kids be safe and adults be safe, because I've rescued both. And let kids have a fulfilled life. Or you can see fatality, because if we cut our responders too, who's gonna get to them to help? Parents don't come down with their kids all the time. It's on us to keep them safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Brian Coons, and I'm a member of the Events and Tourism Committee, and I'm not going to be in support of David Ireland's budget tonight. The importance of having public safety and the events and communications director is very vital to this town. I don't even see half of you guys volunteering at town events. And everyone is saying volunteers can take it over, nonprofits can take it over. The Chamber of Commerce. I've even seen posts on Facebook from some of you guys saying that the Chamber of Commerce can take it over. Here's the reality of that. The Events and Tourism Committee can't get volunteers now as it is. Neither can a lot of the other places in town that need them. If you cut public safety, I moved up here to take care of my grandparents. They've needed Lincoln Ambulance multiple times. They have been there in a very reasonable amount of time, and I'm on the outskirts of town. You cut public safety, you're cutting the lifeline to this town. I have residents in town where Lincoln responds. And they're scared that they're not going to get services if our public safety gets cut. Just please take that into consideration when you do your budgets.
Hi, my name is Dylan McGrail. I'm a resident, taxpayer, I'm a business owner, and a farmer, right here in Lincoln. I came to speak about my concerns for the proposed budget, just like everybody else. So like many Lincoln residents here, family's not wealthy. We work multiple jobs, we run our business, we run our farm just to make ends meet. We rely on SNAP benefits to put food on our table. We pay close to $4,000 annually for our property taxes. And we live approximately 5 miles out of Lincoln Center. I would much rather pay more taxes just to have these wonderful people behind me show up in the amazing ways they have. Today alone, I was working from home because I had the luxury to do that, to be able to be with my family and manage my farm, do all the things while I work all of my other jobs. Today, across the street from me, first responders came out to put a fire out. There was fire, don't know the details of it, but I did see the smoke coming up from what looked like around the train tracks. I don't know, like I said, I don't know the details and everything, but I saw those firefighters rushing into the forest to stop that fire, and they did a great job. It seemed insanely quick for the amount of smoke I saw. Like I said, I own a farm. We were directly across the street. I don't think anybody forgot about last year's drought and how devastating that was. We lost a lot of crops on our farm. We didn't have any blackberries. We grew a lot of blackberries. They all dried up, died. If last year's drought had been here right now, and that fire had started across the street, and our EMS, our fire department, everybody had been cut, my farm would have burned down. I'm not trying to be dramatic. This is serious. I have lost friends in fires in other places in the country where they have struggled with forest fires, where they have struggled with droughts. I have seen the damage that fire can do. I have a barn that is very old. I have a house that is very old. And I have a lot of acreage that is just grass. It's, you know, we could have lost our livelihoods. We could have lost our lives. It's so important that these folks have their jobs, that they don't have these sites. I know that you guys are here, you're trying to do what's best for the community. That's why you guys even chose to run, right? You wanted to do what's best for your community. You wanted to protect us and do what's right for everybody. I moved to Lincoln about 3 years ago after searching high and low for the best place to have my business, to start my family. I grew up in Rhode Island. I wasn't even originally in Maine. I moved all the way up here, several hundred miles away from what everything I knew, you know, and Lincoln was the place. Lincoln is the place. People like to joke and be like, why would you move to Lincoln? Who moves to Lincoln, right? Like so many people, when I first moved up here and was meeting people, making friends, and everything, why would you move to Lincoln? And my answer is, and always will be, Lincoln is my home. It's close to my home. I want to enjoy the opportunity to build my company here, to attract customers from other towns, from other cities around. I run a flower farm. That's a place that people like to come from long ways to come and experience, right? And we're still brand new, we're still very small, you know, 3 years is nothing to start a business, right? But I saw this place and I said, oh man, this is where I can do, this is where I can grow this dream I've had years and years and years. And if we lose the things that keep us safe, who wants to come to a place that's notorious for being unsafe? Nobody. Nobody wants to go somewhere that's not safe. So how am I going to get customers who are then going to come to support our local inns and stay at the vacation rentals and go down to the beach and experience Lincoln's lakes, like Lincoln's lakes, right? That's what we are. None of that can happen if we're not safe. Like I said, I believe you guys are all here because you care about our community. You want to do the job that you are here to do because you think that you can do it best. And I really hope that you can. I really believe in you that you can. But it's really important, like like Marguerite said, that you choose empathy and you really hear what everybody comes to say. So I don't think we're meaning to come here and attack you guys or say whatever, right? I think we're coming here because we're scared and we don't want to lose our town. We want our programs to be supported and our safety to be appreciated and I don't know the word I'm thinking of, but to be recognized, I guess. So I think that, like several other people have said tonight, making a point to just go with what we've worked, go with what we've been doing previous to all of the cuts and the changes and everything. Take the time to assess what really can be done, can be changed. And in the meantime, we have a wonderful library with wonderful resources that could be supported with just a couple people with the information to help support our taxpayers here in town to find ways to help get the subsidies that the state offers, which means no lost profit for our town. We still get paid, but also means that all the folks who maybe don't have that extra money to pay those extra taxes get the support that they need to. I think that's a really important option that hasn't been considered nearly enough. I don't know all the details. Like I said, I work a lot, so I haven't heard all the in-between pieces, but I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying to pay attention because I really care about this town. I love it here. I don't want to have to leave because things aren't safe anymore. But I have a tiny, tiny little baby and he is my world now. And I want this town to be the place that I dreamt it would be for him. So I really hope you guys can think about that and really take the time to just keep our town safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room?
Good evening. My name is Carrie Lay. I am a resident and taxpayer of Lincoln. I work at PVH. And I just wanted to say that a couple of things. There are new faces. I believe that Eric and David and Lee are the new members on the council. And Sheldon, I'm not sure how long that you've been here, but anyhow, the significant majority of the voters voted you in. And that says something. They wanted change from what was happening in the past. So I am still glad that I had voted for you. And I have, anyhow, stay strong in what you're doing. It is sad that more of the people that voted for you are not here. Perhaps they have issues, medical, physical, whatever, that don't allow them to attend these meetings. Also, I am actually happy to see that there's this much discourse between the townspeople. This was not always the case in the past. So I do believe that you are all trying to increase transparency of the local government. And just one thing I want everyone to consider as well when it comes to budget. They change year to year, and it doesn't mean that they go up every year. If one year you are purchasing new vehicles and new equipment, it doesn't mean that you need that same budget the following year and then some. They can fluctuate down. So just for everyone to think about that, take that into consideration. And for the newcomers to the council that are trying to make positive change, stay strong, because there are those out here who do support.
Donnie Olson, Lincoln Fire, local 3038 vice president, live at 241 Lee Road. I would like to just add on to the fires that were happening today. Just a couple of things I've heard about needing more equipment and having the people there. We had 2 fires happening at the same time today. And a medical call. 2 of them wouldn't have been dealt with in a timely fashion. They were within 300 feet of structures that probably would have been burnt as well. We don't want that. As for equipment, during those calls, every piece of fire apparatus we had, we're dealing with the 2 different fires. Each piece of apparatus has water and tools that we need. We're not asking for more equipment. We're asking to keep them maintained. Back to where I'm from, Lincoln, 241 Lee Road is where I'm living. I've lived in this town my whole life. Some of you I've known for 30+ years. I've heard your voice on the radio. You were role models. You were people that didn't make blind decisions, especially dangerous ones. You wanted to help us. You wanted to be neighbors. We're all neighbors in this community. The tape doesn't line across the floor between us. We are neighbors working together to do the right thing. Councilor Island's budget isn't the answer right now. A blind decision is not an answer. I'm asking you to forget that budget altogether. Look at your town manager's budget. Get through this year. Look at the tax, make smart, safe decisions. I implore you, once that budget goes in, please come to the fire department. Please go to the police department. Sit with us for 6, 12, 24, whatever you need. Let us talk to you about what equipment costs, how we do things, the safety aspects of the trainings that we do need. And then let's work together to make a budget that we can carry on with without losing services that are needed in this town. It happens every day. For 2 months, we've been fighting as a battlefield. We're a community. We're neighbors. Let's work together. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Brian Hamer. Thank you, councilors, for all the work you do. So I've only been in Lincoln for about 6 years. I have a business here, I have a home here. I helped get the museum started, Heroes Museum. I've listened to everybody here tonight. Obviously, quite obvious that they don't want some of the cuts that you presented. And I can understand that. I think what we've got to do as a town, and I love this town. I've been on here 6 years. It's my home now. I came from Bar Harbor and I don't want to go back. And I've met so many good friends. I'm friends with a lot of the council members. I think we have got to obviously work together. We've got to go out and find the funds from these untaxed homes, untaxed properties. I understand there's quite a few out there. I think that should be the biggest thing that the council should do right now is go after these funds. I don't see how we can do a lot of cutting. I like what the last fireman just said, sit down together, see how that we work. I was a fire chief for 10 years in Mount Desert. I fought for everything I got from the council on the budget, tried to get more than I needed, I think if we work together very, very closely, we can pull this all in and sit down and the council members have got to go out and go to the police station, go to every one of these organizations and try to see exactly what we can do and what we can't do. Some things we just can't do. We have to have our firefighters. We have to have the police department and all these different budgets. Recreation, we need that in this town. We can't cut it. You're not going to bring anybody here if we don't have it. So I think the bottom line is let's work together. Let's be a town. And I think we will fly off into the wild blue yonder on a high note. So let's just do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yep. My name is Adrian McLaughlin, Lincoln resident, taxpayer, voter. Okay, so I have a few questions for all of you guys. I know you love answering questions. Okay, so how many here have ever been in a vehicle wreck? Okay. Well, not good, but I'm glad you guys are answering. Has anybody here had their house set on fire? One, okay. How quick was the fire department that when your house burnt down?
I wasn't home. I'd say that probably Buck Irish and the crew was there in probably like 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So in those 5 minutes, was anybody in that house?
My wife,
Was she able to get out safely?
yes, she was.
Thank God. Anybody here that got in a car accident, do you have to call the police?
They should have.
Anybody have severe injuries from car accidents?
Yep.
And the EMS was there?
Yes,
And I'm assuming they were very helpful.
yes.
Made you feel better that they were there, right? Now imagine if your house caught on fire and they weren't there in 5 minutes. And imagine if you got in a vehicle wreck and they weren't there. Really scary, right? And I'm not up here asking these questions trying to single anybody out. I'm not here to personally attack anybody, but to bring perspective, right? I'm very fortunate. I actually have a really clean driving record. My dad is so happy about that, I can tell you. And I've never had a house catch on fire, but I have seen wildland fires. I used to live out on Long Pond, which is, if you ask any of those guys up there, half the time they can't find where my house is because it's not on the map. And my parents' neighbor actually, last fall, tax assessor came out, didn't even know there was a house out there. So I really just want to enforce and really push forward maybe the idea, the agenda of not voting this budget in and sitting back and letting the tax assessors actually figure out where the houses are, because I know a very big region of Lincoln that actually, they have no idea that there are houses there. They think it is an empty lot. That's not even cleared. They don't even know there's a driveway. And as much as I'm sure those people's taxes are awesome, it's not fair. The rest of us are carrying a very heavy burden, and it's pushing forward very egregious and quick decisions. And being 23, I've always heard everybody in my life, that's, my grandparents, my parents, they always preach to me, slow down and not wait for immediate satisfaction, right? And I feel like tables kind of flipped here. I feel like I'm telling everybody that's older than me to slow down and not look for immediate satisfaction. And maybe take a step back and see what we can do. I know I talked to you, Mr. Hannington, at length the other night. I've never sat down and I guess I've never really taken the time to beg with somebody like that. But I did. And I really hope it wasn't for nothing. And I really hope that my words and my opinions here resonate a little bit. Because what if your wife wasn't able to get out? Right?
Hmm.
Who would come and save her? Who would be there? Nobody would be there. Nobody. It would be a very unfortunate ending. And it would be a very unfortunate time. And that's an actual reality we have to put into effect here. We have to look at. And I can't imagine I can't imagine putting a dollar sign over somebody's head. I've never thought of anybody in that way. And I think you maybe need to take the numbers out from in front of your face and look at people like they're people. And that's all I have to say.
Anybody else? Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, yes, you're gonna speak? Go ahead.
As a resident and taxpayer here, I also want to say, I said the last time I did vote for some of y'all, and I said, I'm here and stand front and say I'm disappointed. I've talked to some of you outside of here at different functions, dealt with some of you at different people. We have some similar interests between some of you. I moved here from Bangor with my family for exactly one of the reasons that Ms. Portman was up here and talked about. We were able to take our kids to the parks and see the beach and understand that nowadays we're at a time where families have to work. As a single parent, I have to work every day, all day. I work at a job Monday through Friday, and then Friday and Saturday night, as some of you have seen, I'm at the bars and tap house as a bouncer. So I see what some of you do when you don't think people are watching, and when you show up in public and you don't think, and you don't think people can hear. Also, but we expect and need that family support. Many of us grew up, and some of you are the generation that it took a community to raise, or a village, they said, to raise a family. We seem to have forgotten that. This village seems to have forgotten that. This little TP in front of us seems to feel like, to the town, you're little TP, and you're not listening to what we're saying. You're not caring what we're saying. I've also said before, I don't approve of, and I wouldn't support your budget, Mr. Ireland. Actually, I want to stand up here and say, you know what? I go against that. I completely support your budget, Mr. Ireland. I believe that's a good idea. I think you should go ahead and keep cutting them. Because, you're going to stand up here when the deplorables from Bangor, who literally, you've seen on the news, not too long ago, more bus, drug bus. You guys are going to stand up there and protect these citizens, right? The elderly, when the junkies and the deplorable people off the street come up here that don't care, don't have morals, don't have any feelings. You guys are going to get up there and still support, go out on the street, protect them, right? Since you want to cut their budget, right? And I'm telling you from somebody who's lived in a town, lived in a time, and lived in places that has seen firsthand and been around some of those people firsthand, none of you can handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I get what everyone's afraid of. I first was elected to the council 2016. And we had a revenue problem then, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jeff Gifford and I, good friends, Irene's husband, salt of the earth, and I miss him dearly. We had a assessing problem then. No one wanted to fix it. And we probably would not be here tonight if all our properties were assessed properly. We would not be here tonight if government has not grown to the excess that the elderly in this town and those that's working for $35,000 a year or less are struggling to make ends meet. I've said for years, we need a right-sized government. We need a methodical government that's servicing the people. I get that. And Donnie Olson, thank you. We've known each other for 35, 40 years. The hatred that has come out in this debate is deplorable. When you have police officers come to your house, because they can threaten me, but Lord forbid if they come again and I'm there and they threaten my wife. This bull has to stop. And where was the outcry when I submitted 376 signatures to the council? Faye Broderick and I got because of Mr. Bronson give himself a $17,000 raise. I give it to the council. I kept a copy. Wasn't any outcry then. And then the budget was passed and he gave himself a 5% raise to all non-union employees. So what I'm saying is, we as a council, we are in charge. We have to take the charge of doing the people's will. I get where the first responders are. I get where the firefighters are and the police. But we as a council, We have to do what's right. This is probably gonna take 2 years from today if we fix assessing tonight to have the revenue start coming in. We have been arguing for 10 years for this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, Gus, no, Lee, no. No, I apologize. Your police officers was top notch. Thank you, Chief.
I would like to answer the question that the former candidate lady asked. And the one accomplishment I feel we have accomplished today is to get you here. Where were you when all of the failed previous council kept on raising taxes and paying attention to Rick Brunson and bringing this town to the ruin we're trying to fix today? Please answer yourselves that question. But I am glad we're here because we are listening and we're gonna do whatever we can to make this town as good as we all want it to be.
I want to thank you all for coming here over and over. I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for everyone else, although I think you have been heard and you are being listened to. We're trying to balance what's the right thing to do. The good thing that's come out of this process is I think anyone in this room can make a list of where the problems are, and what needs to be fixed. So we don't have to sit down and do brainstorming on that, and we know what. And our job now is to fix those. And I agree with the people up here or right there who said, slow down. Take your time, fix things right. In particular, I like Kelly, get your manager, get your treasurer, get the press. Those are the key things we need to do. So I don't know when the vote will take place. I don't know how the vote will take place, but I can tell you that I will be voting for those laws.
I'd like to also thank everyone who spoke tonight and at the previous meetings. And I do mean everything. One of the things that I'm really kind of concerned about is, well, actually, let me first, I'm a data person. And somebody who asked, Bobby, you asked what I was most proud of. It was putting together the presentation and the data database that I used for that presentation. Trying to show what the cost of these cuts would be across the different versions of things. I've got a different version of it set up here tonight, so I'm ready to go again. But one thing that I see with data, and I want to say again, thank you all for being here, particularly thank you to all of those people who have spoken out about how they voted in the past on this last election. Because, well, I'm going to get back to that in a minute. I was up here and Lee Rand was talking, and you know I overheard you talking about how at the parade in Burlington you had about a dozen people roughly.
I would be glad to tell my story after you get done.
Okay, right. But in any case, that only one person had said to go back and do what we're talking about. Most of them were saying stick to your guns. Well, that is not representative sample. When you're doing data analysis, you don't go by who comes up to you and gives you their opinion. You get a random sample. Now, we can't get a random sample. The best we can get right now is what happened at the last election. And I was appreciative that Erica pointed out that
with the numbers that are out there, it does not show that there was a mandate for cutting the budget. In fact, what you end up with is that the highest number that you had for people voting for the for a council person on the election was less than 50%. Okay, so that's not a mandate. And what I have noticed, one thing I think that is very interesting is that we have had people coming up, several tonight, and we've had them before, saying, I am kind of regretful about the vote that I voted before, that I voted for some of you who were elected at this last meeting. What I have not heard anyone say is I regret that I didn't vote against that I didn't vote for somebody other than you. Everybody who has come up here, no one has said, gee, I'm really glad really disappointed that I voted for Bobby, or I'm really disappointed that I voted for Mary. Nobody is saying that. Okay, so if the numbers are shifting, they are shifting away from what the vote was the last time. If they're not shifting toward it, people, if it was already not a mandate, it's less of a mandate than it was before. And I think that we need to pay attention to the numbers and say, look, you do not have as many people behind you as you may think you do in trying to cut this budget as severely as what you're talking. Another thing is that there were several people who made good comments online on Facebook. I wish more of them were here tonight to speak out and say what they said on online. We actually do have one person here, Irene Gifford. And Irene, I know you said you didn't want to get up and speak. Would you mind if I read out loud what you said? Irene said, remember, this is our current state representative, okay? She represents all of us, okay? Just wanted to share my opinion. I am for common sense tax cuts like everyone else. However, I stand with the community and their needs first. I just want to say, first and foremost, that I support our police, fire, and rec department. These are some of the folks that are the most important in our community. I 100% support the Lincoln Loon Festival and what it does for our community. I will be working to share my opinion with the town council that they should revisit the proposed tax cuts. I request our town councilors to think of the community first before making decisions. I do not stand with some of these choices, and I need your feedback.
Now, for the rest of the story. A lot of work weekend. My wife had a great time. I'm celebrating America, been working. Anyway, as I was talking to a fellow counselor, I happened to mention that we counted them, 18 people who I did not know, who came up to Connie and I during our time out there in Burlington, which was about 2.5 hours. 17 of those 18 people said, keep doing what you're doing, boy. You know, our taxes are so high, we can't, this is a paraphrase. They said, we've got to do something about it. Thank you. One person said, hey, we can't afford the cuts. 1 out of 18. Now, Gordon, of course, doesn't think that's significant. I thought it was. And I know as a socialist, you probably have a little bit of disdain for the average. Anyway, so that's the story about Burlington. Okay, you can take it for what it's worth. I think it's significant. But anyway.
Order. Every one of us sat up here, did not interrupt you. Let him finish.
one of the things that I've noticed in this dialogue that we're having around town and on Facebook and everything else, there are a handful of people have chosen to make this, make personal attacks. Hope they post hateful comments on social media, on the newspaper. Disagreeing with elected officials is what our republic is all about. It's all about that. But the kind of discourse that we're having in this town, some of the things that you people, some of you people are saying about us and other elected officials in this town are just downright disgraceful. And I'll tell you one thing, this town is better than that. We don't need to put up with that bullcrap. Let's have a discussion, let's have a dialogue, let's talk. We don't have to have name calling. You don't have to have threats. You don't have to threaten family members. You don't have to call us all kinds of names and dredge up things supposedly that were in the newspaper 15, 20 years ago about some people or whatever. That's not helping anything. Now, we've got 3 people that were elected last fall. They all ran basically on the premise, hey, you know, we think we can make a difference. We'd like to see some changes. The voters agreed, and that's what we're trying to do. So all I'm saying is, hey, let's talk. But some of you people aren't talking. And that's a shame.
I'm going to agree with him on one thing, we should be talking. And one of the things that happened with this budget last time, which I'm hoping you will correct tonight, is there was no talking about this budget that is being proposed tonight. Tonight, I'm gonna listen. I want to find out what it is that David Ireland is presenting and why he's presenting it. I want to see if there's line by line explanation of it. But we did not get any talking between the town and the council or David about it before our last vote. And I'm hoping that tonight we will get that information so when our next vote comes around, we will have actually had a true public hearing. Okay, I'm gonna end the open forum. I do want to say a few things. One, I do appreciate everyone here, whether I agree with you or not. I've been on council for a long time, and you don't know how many years, meeting after meeting after meeting, and no one shows up. And I think it's great that we have to move the meetings here because we have those people. Secondly, I don't say a lot on the issue right now as chair because I feel I have to be somewhat impartial or make people think that they're not getting cut off or let someone else speak longer. You can tell how I feel, how I vote. And I just want to make that clear because people have asked me, why don't you say more? That's what. Okay. Item number 3. Explanatory budget message. Per section 602 of Town Charter, an explanatory budget message shall be submitted with the budget under consideration. The budget authority of the council shall be limited to the final determination of the total appropriation to be made to each of the several offices, departments, and agencies from the town. Further, the council shall fix the time and place to hold public hearing on such a budget and give the public a notice of such hearing, which is the next item. Okay, David. It's all you. We'll take this out.
This part of it is not going to take me very long. Section 602(4) does not permit the council to do a line by line. What we voted on in June 26 were amendments to the town manager's budget. Before I get into taking here a few minutes, how I explain how I came up with my amendments. I've explained this in previous meetings. I will do it again tonight. For those who missed, for those who asked about the surprise attack supposedly. If you recall, in the meeting, I believe it was the week before, June 22nd, the chair had me read in my amendments. So everybody had a chance on that. Before I get into a few minutes of my comments, I am going to say a few things that I held off from saying during open forum. You can disagree with me. You can trash me. I even got a death threat last week. But don't insult my family. The stuff that I see on social media regarding my family is unbelievable. Leave my family out of this. You disagree with me, come after me. I can take it. I think you guys have learned that in the last 8 months. Come after me. Number two, this amendment, this isn't about me. Do you think I enjoy taking this heat? This isn't about me. I don't get off on my amendments.
Chief Miller,
You remove her.
Chief Miller. MJ. Just.
This,
keep calm.
my amendments that I submitted. Yeah, escort out. Thank you. The amendments that I proposed and we voted on June 22nd is because when I ran last fall, I promised to lower this budget. And I'm delivering on that. I'm taking a lot of flack, but I'm delivering on that promise. I do have a suggestion on how we should move forward. I like the idea, and I'm just speaking on behalf of myself, one counselor. I think we should take my budget amendment, and the town manager's budget, and for this year only, put it out to referendum, put it out the ballot, and let the people vote on it. That's my opinion, and that's what I would support. Now, with that said, over the past 6 years, Lincoln's property tax burden has increased more than 65%. During that same period, the police department budget has increased approximately 139%. The fire department has increased nearly 80%. At the same time, Lincoln's annual revenues have declined from approximately 9 million in fiscal year 2022 to approximately 4.7 million today, a reduction of roughly 52%. Many Lincoln residents have seen their property tax bills double over the past 2 or 3 years. People have sold their houses because they can't afford property taxes in this town. I've heard regularly last fall, and I hear it this year, from seniors on fixed incomes, working families who are struggling to keep up with the rising taxes. One of the efforts that I did earlier this year was, earlier this year, the council directed that a zero-based budget be prepared. Unfortunately, the council never received a true zero-based budget. As a result, I developed a proposal based on the last council's approved budget from fiscal year 2021. Now, whether on purpose or lack of information, I have never advocated for taking all of these departments back to fiscal year 2021. What I've done is, and I've made this clear, is that I've added 34% increase to the 2021 fiscal year, with the exception of 2 departments. The police department increase is 89% from what it was in fiscal year 21. My original amendment on June 22nd would have increased the fire and EMS budgets by 42%. Now, tonight, I offer a choice with removing items from the TIF budget, freeing up $201,000 and adding it to fire and EMS budget. That change right there will get fire and EMS budget within 10%. I believe it's within 10%. But actually, it would increase it till 60% from fiscal year 2021. And I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, I have to object to one thing on that. Or that is, I looked over, I did the analysis. You said you only increased, you had only had 2 budget lines that were increased by other than 30%. Now I've got only 5 which were 34%. They range from 24.4% up to 263.6%, but there were only 5 that were right at 34%. So that's not a 34% across this is altered significantly from 34% and without an explanation as to why.
Which departments are you referring to?
We'll take clerk, we'll do 54.9%, finance 53.9%, code enforcement is up 50.2%, fire and EMS is up 41. We got let's see,
So these are the final increases of 134%.
Yeah. So what's the problem? So, okay, you also had some that were less. You got 24.4%. The thing is, you made 24.4% with your capital improvements, and 26.4% with transfer station. Okay, so what I'm saying is that if it's a 34% across the board increase, the majority of them should have been 34%. This looks more like just a random selection of things that you said, well, here's roughly 34%, and let me sort of adjust it from there for my will.
It's not even close, Councilor Street. The we don't need capital expenditures to the same amount that we had in fiscal year 2021, number one. Number two, the amount for the transfer station is what they requested.
I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is that you said the 34% off the board rate. It is not. It was very much according to what you thought ought to be.
No, no, I started.
I passed out this the last time we were here. Everyone has a copy. Who was here last time has a copy, not everyone, but many of you have copies of the spreadsheet that I put out there. And it shows this is not uniformly 34%. And I'd like to know why, how you came up with a 50% average after. What was your actual thinking?
Again, when I started this, it was 34%. And then the reason why you come up with a different average, Councilor Street, is there's a much more significant increase for police and fire. There's nothing nefarious on my. We don't need $5 million expenditures in capital like we did in fiscal year 2021. Again, nothing nefarious with that. So I'm not this, and this is another thing that I've seen in social media that Councilor Ireland's picking winners and losers. It's not. And I wish you would stop pushing that false narrative.
It's not a false narrative. It is very much database. I will give you a copy. In fact, I gave you a copy the last time you were here. I would like to know why it is that what you came up with is so different from department to department. And one thing you haven't talked about is that despite all of that, I mean, what most of these things were cuts from the FY 2026 budget. And those are completely, it's up here completely rent. Okay, a lot of that we can discuss in the public hearing. Go ahead. Yeah. No, we are. We're gonna take a 10-minute recess and then we'll start the public hearing on those.
Item 4, the district move and we go to the public hearing for the purpose and all of the comments. And the proposed FY 2027 budget submitted by Council. Second. Motion been made second. Any discussion? All in favor? Is there, and we will start with the. Okay, we start with the town manager's budget, the amount of $185,000. Anybody?
All right, I have a question on item 0 wages. What would that amount be?
I did not, and I'm not going to do a line by line, but I'm going on 6024. That clearly states that the proposed budget prepared by the manager shall be reviewed by the council, which shall approve the budget with or without amendments.
The amendment for line by line. So
No, George. My amendments were at the department head level, is what the council can do.
I respectfully disagree. My next question would be, based on your current budget, since you can't give a line by line breakdown, is if these cuts were to happen, and we lose fire and EMS personnel, what changes does that make to the unemployment and severance packages and everything else? What would we come to do?
Are we not discussing the town manager budget?
We are discussing the town manager.
Okay, keep that in mind.
You'll have a chance.
Okay, I'll wait for the other line items. Thank you.
Wait.
You said I have to stand up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I will stand up here. One of the challenges that I've tried to address with Councilor Ireland on these budgets, trying to come up with this percent increase, is there are items that are in those budgets today in each of those departments that were not there in 2021. So to say, for instance, my budget to be at 185 is not a true figure, because the rent for the town office was not in the town manager's budget. It was in some other portion of the budget back in 2021. So what you will cut out, what that will mean, you want to know what's not going to be there, will be the contractual services. I did not know what that word meant till after the meeting on the 22nd, be honest with you. And what that means is we'll have no access to the town's legal counsel, because that's where that money is gonna have to come from, because there isn't a lot else in there, near as I can tell, looking at the budget under the town manager. So I did try to address that, and still proceeded to go with his number on that, so you can imagine how that appears.
Give it.
Great segue, Mr. Schaefer. So currently in the FY 26 budget, what have you spent on legal services or contractual services? Can you tell us that amount?
I didn't bring those figures with me tonight. This is, do you know, Wade?
I know approximately we're right at the max. We're at $69,000 something as of a week or two ago when I asked for that figure from the city. So I believe the amount approved was 70,000. We were just about there a week or two ago.
So if that's correct, and with all of the stuff that's going on with the referendum and having Andy here at the last meeting for however many hours he was here, you probably will overspend that contractual services line, even if that's the line that the town manager believes will have to be reduced, because that's the only place in the budget he can reduce. So then next year, when you get ready to fund all of the departments that have overspent, that'll be a line that'll have to be funded. Thank you.
Robert?
So we're gonna be looking for a new town manager. Of that $185,000, what is budgeted for a new town manager? And are we gonna use the MMA process to get a qualified town manager?
We haven't decided which process we're gonna use yet, but we are gonna use a company instead of trying to do it in-house like we have the last 2 times.
How much have you budgeted for a new qualified town manager?
Again, I'm not,
That information is important within a budget. Can you give us a number?
again, no. Because
So we're
the
we're
amendments
putting
are
input
at the
on something
department
that we
head
don't
level.
have the information on.
So we can stay in here all night and ask for line item numbers.
This is really important, the town manager. You've had people say we need 3 positions funded. The town manager is very critical. And for a qualified one with all of the stuff that Wade's saying goes into that budget, I'm concerned that it's gonna get overspent.
Colter Murtis. Can you hear me? Colter Murtis, Lincoln Fire and Back If it goes to the department head, as you said, Mr. Allen, he decides the next guy's salary? Is that how that works? No, who's the department? head? For the town manager's budget,
Town manager.
the town manager, okay. So does he figure it out or who figures it out? Who does that go to?
That's gonna be negotiated with the next town manager.
It's gonna be negotiated with the next town manager, but you don't have like even a maximum number that. Like you don't have a maximum, I'm sure you have a minimum, like everybody hopes for less. So if you don't have a maximum, you can't say that number. I understand going, you're trying to put it on the department head. Okay, but if you don't have a department head, how does that work?
Like I just said. That is gonna need to be negotiated with the next town manager. How can he budget for what the next town manager is gonna cost? We don't know who the town manager is gonna be or what the salary requirement.
We would use an estimate based on what a typical town manager. would say.
One at a time.
Cap, whatever the number is, I feel like if you're gonna be responsible in this. That you should figure out that number because yes, you're gonna have to negotiate it with whoever's next. But to not have an answer doesn't strike confidence. Okay, thank you.
I can just speak about, because I have all the MMA wage studies, so I can kind of speak about that. Oh, sorry. So I have all the MMA wage studies. I actually took this a couple months ago and looked. I took 13 towns. I didn't take York or someplace way down in the south, but I took 13 towns that were comparable to us, near us, and the 2025, the median of that was 126,000. That's what a town manager would cost. Now, we don't have this year's one, so it's gonna be more than that. So, but that's where I just want to give you guys a rough estimate of what actually, if we took the MMA wage study.
You know what the range was?
The range was anywhere from the lowest was Milford, it was 104. And the highest was Bar Harbor, that was 159.
David Ireland, the fact that you're coming to us without actual figures is not promising. The public's been asking for line by line. You can't even answer the simple question on the town manager budget of a range or anything like that, because you don't have the numbers. You said you don't have the numbers. You left it up to the department heads. The town council should know what's roughly going to be budgeted. That as a citizen and a taxpayer of Lincoln, we should know. You can't answer the questions of what's going to be budgeted because you don't have your numbers.
Adrian McLaughlin. So I did, is that somebody's paper? It's fine. Okay, so when the question was asked about who is gonna be deciding the numbers and everything about department heads, and then when the question was asked about line by line budget, your response was you're not doing a line by line budget by 604.
The town council, at the town council level, the town council
Okay.
did not do a line by line adjustment. We can only adjust, increase or decrease each department's budget.
Okay, so that's totally understandable as long as that is legal. So basically
It's in the
my
town charter.
biggest question for you is, so this, well, not even a question really, more or less, maybe for the thought. Maybe this is the reason why we shouldn't be doing it this way. Maybe we should just be going with the town manager budget, or maybe the budget that the budget committee proposes. Because I believe that the budget committee did go line by line, and did scrutinize every department head. So in the first 5 minutes of all of this happening, confidence in anything that was going on with anything to do with this budget actually plummeted. I didn't even know I had any confidence in it, and apparently I did because I lost all of it. So, I wanted to say that, again, the budget committee did go line by line, and maybe that is a better idea than just going in a general shot in the dark moment, you know? So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
John Trask and I pay taxes. I'm concerned with the not knowing if the legal fees are gonna be enough to get through next year. I keep talking about the budget process as far as paying for attorneys in Augusta to fight the tribes taking the river bank to bank. We won't have any economic development if we lose that river. And we've been paying, one of the few towns that have been paying an attorney for years to fight them not having that river bank to bank. We can't afford that. So if the attorney's fees are taken out of that, we're not, I mean, they're not gonna go down to Augusta and work for us and just because they like us. And they're expensive and they spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people. And I know last year they kept the tribes from getting the river bank to bank. We can't afford that. And I guess I'd just echo the fact that your campaign promises was I can lower the budget without cutting personnel. The budget committee did that. They lowered the budget 2%. And if you took $200,000 to $400,000 from the investment account, you're looking pretty darn good for keeping your promises. It doesn't have to be 20% or 54% this year. You kept your promise. Thank you.
Hi, since we're still on the town manager line budget, I took the liberty of looking online at just 3 line items out of that budget. And that is the lawyer's fees, the rent, and sorry, I have one that's slightly incorrect. And the that leaves, so between that's $102,000. Basically, your budget is proposing 85 left for everything else that's in that budget. That's not just the town manager's salary. And you already heard the chief point out how much town managers cost. So on this proposed line item, the pieces that you can't change, which is the lawyer's fees and the rent, are a significant part of that single line item. And I don't see how any town manager can make that work. The rent is what it is. It's going to cost you more to move. You're not going to find a lower rent elsewhere. And I'm darn sure the lawyer's not dropping his fees. So that number of $185,000 for that alone does not stand up to scrutiny. It is absolutely not possible. And I'd far rather see a workable budget that deals with reality, which I believe, having spent the time on the budget committee, going through an exhaustive process, a lot of people gave a lot of their time to that process. For it to be disregarded is rather disrespectful, especially when it doesn't meet the bounds of reality. Thank you.
I apologize. I should have said this in the beginning. Wade Schaefer, Lincoln resident, taxpayer. Sorry for not following the rules. I will do better. All right. To answer the question on the salary for the town manager in 2021, it was $91,666, a 34% increase. For those that are asking what that would mean today, $122,832. The other thing I would like to say, I should have said before, Councilor Ireland, you had mentioned multiple times about a zero-based budget that has not been presented to the council. I don't know a lot about zero-based budget, so I went ahead and researched it. And in my research, and another resident, Dean, thank you, also came to the same conclusion that I did. We did this independently. It takes years for a town to get fully on a zero-based budget. It needs to be done department by department over a period of years. You are expecting to be done within a period of 3 months, maybe, if I'm thinking right. I don't know when you asked for that specifically, the date, but in what I was researching it, can it work for a municipality? The answer is yes. It most definitely can work for a municipality. The speed in which it's implemented, though, is a much slower process. It's something that takes years, according to what I have researched. So that's all.
Just to kind of echo what's been said, you budgeted 185. With all the strife and frustration that's going on, you're going to have to pay more for a town manager to come in here. So at a median of 124, I believe is what Chief quoted, and at the increased percentage of 122 and some change of what Wade quoted, you're going to be paying more than that. And that doesn't even cover the lawyer's fees that should be included in there, much less anything else. I just want to make a statement that we haven't even moved out of the first item to discuss. And we're already finding that there's not enough money in the budget. $9.7 million, which is what the budget was in 2021, has the same equivalent purchasing power of $12 million in 2026. And I think you're going to find that's why we're having a problem, and we're going to continue to have a problem down through the rest of these.
Anybody else on the town manager's budget? No, we'll move on. Council.
That's it. Just a general. Is it working? Just a general misconception. The budget committee actually raised the, they did drop the budget that was presented from the department, but then the town manager put it back up for a couple of reasons. So through, some things were omitted on the budget, and
And I sat through most of the budget meetings and watched the couple online and. So we know how that goes. Sometimes you can't hear anything, everything. But there were things that the budget committee recommended be added to the budget that were not voted by the entire budget. So I don't want people to think that the budget committee was ignored. If you look at the complete budget book that the manager presented, it's actually marginally higher than what the budget committee, so they weren't ignored.
Gordon? Anybody else on the council? All right, we'll move on to the town clerk budget, 250,000. Do we have any questions and comments on the town clerk budget?
I'll ask the question again. Item 001 wages, what's that total amount? Just for the record. Nothing. Want to bring it to everyone's attention to section 602 of the charter. Item 3, an itemized statement of estimated revenue from all sources other than the taxation and a statement of taxes required. Comparative figures from a current and next preceding year. I don't see that anywhere in this agenda for this public hearing. And that is required by charter. So I'm curious if we have those numbers.
On section 4, this is an amendment to the town manager's budget. This is not a complete new budget.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, I'm a bit confused here. My understanding is that the only one who can present a budget is the town manager. And that if you are presenting, if we are allowing you to present a separate budget, then you need to be presenting it as if you're presenting a town manager's budget, which should be complete.
I am not, again, I am operating on 602, section 4, Councilor Street. I cannot submit a budget.
Okay, then you cannot.
So let me read it again. A proposed budget prepared by the manager shall be reviewed by the council, which shall approve the budget with or without amendments. And we wanted to do a public hearing on my amendments. That's what I'm doing.
So your amendment should be then a change from the town manager's budget, not a proposal of your own.
I agree. That's my question as well.
We are here because a lot of people, including you, Bobby, wanted explanations, and I expressed that to Councilor Ireland that he needed to come up with explanations. This is what he's giving us. All right, yeah, perhaps, hold on, perhaps I can help here, because I do have what you are proposing here tonight, your amendments, okay? And I've got in relation to the town manager's request. So as we go through this, I can tell you how much of an increase over, how much of a decrease from the manager's request each one of these is. Would that be helpful?
Well, my question is, I'm waiting to see what the town manager's new budget is. He's supposed to have gone back to the department heads and to see what he can come up with. That's what the next budget hearing is scheduled for.
No, he's not leaving until after the vote.
Sorry. Thank you, Sean.
The town councilors cannot submit a new budget.
Exactly, Mr. Hannigan. You will not shout like that again at my meeting.
Well,
No.
okay, I'm sorry.
If you want a point of order, just say it. Don't shout it.
Well, sometimes people need to have the attention brought up, and I apologize, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. But she does raise a good point.
Yes.
She raises a very good point. The point was to explain his changes, and he's not doing it. And we had that conversation, did we not? Councilor Ireland?
I just explained.
No, I know,
How I
I
came
know
up
what
with
you're
my
saying, time
amendment.
after time after
So
time.
I don't know what more.
Anyway, we'll keep going,
Can I give a percentage here?
in a minute.
All right.
So just to reiterate, the frustrations that people are having are continuing. So just put it out to referendum. Yeah. Just end it. Put it out to referendum.
All right, so just for comparison purposes to the town manager's 2027 request that was proposed originally. This would be about a 10.5% decrease. The town manager budget would be about a 10.5% decrease from that budget. Mr. Chair.
I still would like to see what the new town manager's budget's gonna be.
Can I suggest that we have actually something where we can look at a side-by-side comparison? Because I don't know, I may be the only one, but I see one set of numbers here, another set of numbers here. Now we're talking about the budget that the town manager is revising based on your amendments. I'd like to see a side-by-side comparison.
I can't give you a side by side with whatever his new one is.
No, I'm not saying right this second,
Well, but
because
I-
obviously you don't have it all except in a spreadsheet. You have a presentation, if I understand correctly.
I have a spreadsheet that I
But
can put up.
before the next meeting, can we please have something that we can all see? Like, this is a list of line item amendments. It says nothing about how it relates to the town manager's budget. Therefore, people can't get their head around exactly what we're talking about. I had to pull up the last proposed one on my phone to go, it makes no sense for the town manager's budget. That's not something that you should be asking people coming to a meeting to do. You should present them the figures side by side. Thank you.
And I am willing to do that. When we. I am more than willing to do that when the town manager has revised his budget.
Bobby Storman. Okay, so I'm sitting here as a taxpayer and I'm reading number 4. Move to open a public hearing for the purpose of hearing oral and written comments on fiscal year proposed 2027 budget submitted by Councillor Ireland. These are not amendments. This is the budget submitted by Councillor Ireland. So this is what this public hearing is on, is your budget. So we need answers. We need numbers. Are you going to give that to us? If you're not prepared to do it tonight, cancel the meeting. Don't waste our time.
I just want to bring up again, everything we've heard for months on end has been about transparency, running with transparency, and I hear nothing of the sort. Common sense says you don't make blind, dangerous cuts without knowing what you're cutting. You're just gonna drop it on the department head's hands and say, this is your fault. This is your transparency you're giving us right now. None. Give us some. Give us numbers. What are you cutting? Thank you.
Just a little context too, for the 9 years I was on the council always went line by line and made amendments, per legal's advice. So it's been done. I don't know why it's not being done now, but that's how it's always been done.
If it would help, I can give something we can put up there.
We don't have the new budget.
So we were handed out this paper
Yeah.
with the agenda. Who developed this document? So why was this developed if we're not getting answers that say existing original budget, proposed revisions, non-personnel costs, how many people, and the effects on the level of service, none, moderate, or severe. Why isn't this completed as we go through each department? So we can see the results of this proposed budget. And I think a lot of us are asking the same question. If we're revising a budget that we had a line by line, we went through every line, figuring out whether it was appropriate or not, why this budget is now just a grand total. And I understand you're looking at 602-4, but the whole budget submission is 602, not just 6024. You have to follow the procedure, otherwise we don't know where you're coming from, and it's not appropriate. I don't believe this is legal at all.
I think, in speaking to the town attorney. Yep, in speaking to the town attorney, he wanted this budget to be presented. I don't know why. I had some questions about that as well, but I think what you need to do is just go down line by line and let him explain his budget. You're not gonna get answers that you want tonight. I don't think you're gonna see that. So I think you're gonna have to wait until you see the budget next week. But I think at least to do our due diligence, we need to go down line through line and finish this. And just let him explain each department, what he wants to do. I get it, but I think we need to just get through that and then just move to the next meeting and see what the manager proposes and compare it to that.
My understanding from the last meeting with legal counsel was that it was a comparison of the town manager budget as was put up for your guys' changes to the revised budget for David Island's amendments. Is that correct? Because what I'm hearing now is that the town manager is preparing a revised budget to take into account David Island's changes. And that's what's going to be presented next. Am I misunderstanding?
We have two public hearings. Tonight was to address his amendments. Next week is to address the town manager's budget. He's working on it, that his budget is not gonna reflect changes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, I don't want to speak for you. That has anything to do with David's budget.
Correct. Not presented. So what's?
I think the clarification, maybe where we're kind of talking past each other, was the suggestion that the town manager meet with the department heads once again, see if there's any room for cuts, reductions with the department.
So you're asking for a second budget from the town manager?
Yeah, so that's
the one that was put out through the budget committee and through the previous.
correct.
Yet a third budget. Your budget, original town manager budget, revised town manager budget.
As a counselor, I cannot submit a budget. I'm not the one that wrote that.
Because I want to be clear, we're having people come to hearings, we have petitions being circulated. I think it's vitally important that people understand what it is that they're supposed to be looking at and reviewing. And making their arguments for or against. And if it goes through a referendum, they need to know what's being voted. So I would appreciate that crystal clarity, that what it is that we're coming to get next week.
What you will be hearing next week is both the town manager's original budget, plus if he's found anything else that can be cut here and there, not to this severity at all.
I don't like know how this works, but I have this kind of. So I'm reading right here, number 4. I'm gonna read it again. Move to open a public hearing for the purpose of hearing oral and written comments on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget submitted by Council Ireland, as we below. So we are not here again for amendments. We are here for the Ireland budget. So you're telling me that next week, we're gonna come and we're gonna hear this Ireland budget and another budget.
No,
Well, what?
no, next week is for the town manager's budget. Just like tonight, we're not looking at the town manager's budget.
Let's say I come to the meeting and next time I can. New stuff's gonna happen, why don't you present both budgets at both meetings, so that people who can attend one meeting might not be able to attend the other, still get the same information. Somebody who couldn't attend the first meeting, attend the second meeting, they're still getting input on the same budget. Isn't that how it's work, is getting people two opportunities to comment on the same thing? Because that doesn't seem like happening here. It seems like we're voting on David Ireland's budget, not amendment, David Ireland's budget. And then we're gonna come next week or the next time, with another one. Didn't we do this all at once?
Hold on. I want to read section 602, preparation and submission of the budget. The town manager, at least 35 days prior to the beginning of each budget year, shall submit to the town council a budget and an explanatory budget message. The budget authority of the council shall be limited to the final determination of the total appropriation to be made to each of the several offices, departments, and agencies of the town. As a counselor, I don't have the authority to submit a budget. I did not write what's on there.
Just a minute.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yep.
Seconded.
Okay.
David second.
Yep.
All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Yeah.